Hey, welcome back to the show. Here still in my grandmother's house in Florida, doing the salmon thing. I've got my guy Andrew here next to me. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Tom. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, there we go. And Coach Tory in the house. So we were just doing a little off-camera work. And if you're watching the show right now, if you are the kind of person that would like to work with more developers, more builders, if you are looking for a strategy to get an in your marketplace, then you're going to love today's show. Hey, Andrew, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks so much for
Appreciate
having me
you
here.
being here.
Yeah.
Coach Tory in the house.
Tom, hello.
Tory, how many days in a row have you worked out now?
We're at 1,865 since you challenged me back in 2019.
Has the testosterone worn off yet? Or like
Nope, the testosterone keeps going higher, baby.
All right. So, hey, we were chatting.
Yeah.
And you said, I'm working with this remarkable guy in LA. He's just done this incredible work. And the thing that I honed in on, I mean, obviously, your backstory is fantastic, Andrew. So give people, before we get into sort of the how-to and the nitty-gritty, if I want to work with more developers, I want to create relationships with builders, no matter who or where I am, your backstory is fascinating. Born and raised in Boston, Framingham, right?
Framingham, just outside of 20 miles west of the city on the Marathon route, and grew up, in suburban Massachusetts. Born in 1979, ended up going to University of Massachusetts, graduating in 2001. Studied Japanese while I was in college and ended up moving to Japan for a couple of years to further my language ability and teach English to elementary school students. Fantastic experience, got to travel, got to not have a real job for a little while and just really enjoy myself. After I left Japan, I didn't want to move back to Boston. I just wanted to experience something different. And I thought, let me move to the West Coast. Two of my best friends moved out to LA that were in the entertainment business. And I had no interest really in being in entertainment. I knew I was more business oriented, entrepreneurial. But I thought I would get a job working maybe international trade or something, through Japan. And LA seemed like the right place to be. So packed my car. My girlfriend at the time hopped in my vehicle. We drove for 3 weeks, ended up in LA. Didn't know what I want to do. I had 10 grand saved from living in Japan, working in Japan. And then my buddy who was working at the time at a mortgage company in Philadelphia was ultra successful. This was the end of 2003 and the mortgage market was starting to really crank at that time.
So you're the one that did this to us.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to subprime story is going.
Yes. Exactly. Well, you know what? It was interesting. I jumped right into mortgage lending, mostly subprime lending.
Sure.
My real first job, not knowing what I was doing, thinking all that was just normal, all of that type of lending. Quickly rose through the ranks of the company I was working for, ended up getting my own broker's license at that time, a couple years later in 2005 and opening up my own shop. Timing wasn't great, as if everyone remembers, the world ended at, a couple years later.
Yeah. So how did you pivot?
Yeah.
You hit the mortgage meltdown, a lot of friends, a lot of people I still know that are still in the space today, but more of them left the space.
Yeah.
So what did you do after?
Yeah, it's interesting you said. So I had 30 loan officers at my company. We were cranking, and a lot of them were my really close friends. Mm-hmm. And all my friends said, it's all over. I'm going to go get real jobs. They got corporate jobs. And to me, I stood there and said, you know what? This seems like the real opportunity right now.
Yes.
Like the world has changed. And I guess I was brave enough and stubborn enough and had enough drive and tenacity just to say, I want to now pivot and take advantage of all those infomercials and all those real estate investing books that I've been reading. I had a passion for getting involved into it. I actually had bought a foreclosure in 2005 in Mammoth and flipped it at the time. And I was really interested in getting involved in investing. So I jumped right into that, purchasing some really early on some REOs, real estate owned properties in 2007 in the Inland Empire, and then diving a little bit into out-of-state investing. And all of those were giant learning lessons. I lost a lot of money because all of those properties ended up.
No one ever tells me it was a huge learning lesson. I made so much money.
Yeah, no.
It's always like,
who
I
made
got
money in
my
that era?
you know what
Yeah.
gig.
Yeah.
So everyone knows to buy on the dip. Everybody knows it. How did you have the courage to actually pull it off? Was it the courage or the cash?
I didn't have a lot of cash at the time. It was the mortgage business, I barely got out of that, without declaring bankruptcy. I mean, it was hard to get out of the lease. I was really stressing, finding someone to take over my lease, getting rid of all the furniture and all the phone bills and contracts and everything we had. So I had a little bit of money. But I borrowed a lot. I leveraged a lot. And at that time, there were hard money lenders offering a lot of leverage at really high rates. I remember an 18%, 90% LTV loan that I obtained, and I probably borrowed the rest on a credit card or something. I was doing things not necessarily the right way.
How old were you then?
26, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's something to be 26
Yeah.
and just, come on, 7.
Yeah.
You don't do that stuff now, do you?
No, I'm not a big gambler. No.
Yeah.
No.
So I guarantee, just knowing the timing, if you bought early, you weren't making big margins, and that's where the lessons come from.
Yeah.
But transition to, when did you finally get your real estate license?
So if you remember in California, you could get a broker's license or a salesperson's license. And the broker's license, you were able to run a mortgage shop with that broker's license. They changed that after, Dodd-Frank got enacted, or 2009-ish or so. And now it's an MLS license. But I just had that broker's license from 2005
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're fixing and flipping. Did you do a lot of them?
I did a lot. So I lost a bunch of money from 2007, 2008. I didn't want to stop. I went to a real estate event in Las Vegas in the end of 2008, and there was a gentleman that went on stage that was just super impressive. The guy was from Newport Beach.
Jason.
His name was Lee.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I knew a guy from, sorry,
Yeah.
What was Lee's last name?
Birch.
Okay.
Yeah. Great guy. He was on stage, super successful, had the nicest suit, and talked about how he bought apartment buildings and I ended up phoning him up after the conference, and I said, I'm interested in potentially partnering with you. He was obviously had a lot of money, and he said, why don't you come down to my house? So I got in the car, drove to Pelican Hill, $8, $9, $10 million house this 35-year-old kid lived in, who was really successful, and it was just so impressive. But he was just the nicest guy, and he said, look, I like you. If you can go out and find opportunities, I'll put up all the money, and we'll split the deals.
Yep.
So
you became a bird dog.
Yeah, I became a bird dog. I was just really going after it and building relationships. At that time in 2009, bank-owned properties were really the thing. Short sales hadn't really taken off yet.
Yes.
But I just went out and built relationships with as many real estate REO agents as I could. And in March of 2009, I put together my first deal that we purchased on a house in North Hollywood for $160,000. We purchased that, made money. We kept going, and together, Lee and I flipped over 70 homes from 2009 till the end of 2012. We really cranked, and that completely changed my life. While all my friends, were working, their corporate jobs that left the real estate business, I had hung in long enough and educated myself enough, and just was so stubborn and continuing to educate myself that I stayed in the business and really, caught on to something.
You made it through a cycle.
I made it through a cycle.
Power
yeah.
of making it through a cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tory, did you go
Yes,
through
sir.
any? Did you go through any cycles?
Just a few.
Yeah.
That's probably why I identify with Andrew so much, and we worked so well together as coach and client, because his story is my story. When I came from New York back in 2001, you probably don't remember this, but you were the first one to sign me up for coaching.
Yes.
Back in the day, the Palm
back.
Springs Hyatt.
Yes.
And talk about short sale, right?
Yeah.
The Palm Springs Coachella Valley had gone through that entire thing
Yes.
Andrew went through. So when I decided to move to Orange County in 2012 with my family, Andrew was already at that point in Sherman Oaks, Valley Village, and Encino, going up in that area where he's dominating now.
Yes.
So what I find unique about Andrew is he starts every day at zero. That phrase we've implored for the last 6 years. And he just literally, his tenacity, his grit. And I always say to him, I can coach opportunity, but if you don't meet me halfway with grit and tenacity, what are we coaching?
100%. So where does that come from? Like, was it the Japanese culture in
Good
Framingham,
question.
Massachusetts?
No,
Like,
definitely
is it
not.
your parents? Like,
No, my dad and my parents were amazing. They're both deceased now, but my father and mom were not like real hustlers, so to speak. I was always involved in sports as a kid, at an early age. From 5 on, I was playing soccer. When I got in high school, I got involved in wrestling. Was a wrestling captain for my high school. Played lacrosse, played soccer, and I was very competitive. So that competitive, I feel like. Today, I'm still playing sports almost, with my job. I'm going out every day and just having fun, and it's that spirit. So wrestling really changed me as a person. It was really challenging to wake up and have to show up at 6 a.m. with plastic bags on and lose 3 pounds before school started. And my other friends weren't doing that. And it changed me and made me tough. Yeah.
1,000%.
Yeah.
My nephew, Joe Belmonte, who you know, Joe, same thing. He was like number 1 in the state for his weight class. And like, He's like, those disciplines carried over so nicely into, being a salesperson with me, then becoming a sales leader, and now in residential real estate in like Central Coast. All right, so let's talk about developers. It's a third of your business, and just give people context. Like in 2024, how many transactions were you a part of? I know kind of 2/3 were like past client sphere, including like really a third past client sphere, and then a third just reputation, brand. Like they call you,
they find me,
right? They see the properties you list, all of that. But how many transactions on the builder developer side?
So I did 81 total transactions in 2024 and roughly 30 or so developer transactions.
And is there a difference in sales price between the development stuff versus your past clients and Sphere and everything else?
That's a great question. Yeah. So like when I'm finding deals for developers, the entry point is typically somewhere between 1.3 to 2.5. On the back end, when I'm reselling a property for a developer, they're more in the $3 to $7 million range.
Sure.
Yeah.
Price, where it is, et cetera. All right. So if I wanted to get a developer, the person watching right now is like, okay, all right, I got the guy's backstory. Maybe I should move to Japan, become a teacher. All right, I get to lose everything in the 2007, 8, 9. Hopefully we never do that again.
Right.
I want to win developers. Tell me the 5, 6, 7 things you have done and maybe continue to do to like crack open the nut, because everybody's going after them. So you got to do something different. So what, like, give me the step-by-step. What do I do?
So you want to be able to understand how to identify opportunities. That's really important. So it's identifying opportunities and building your developer database. So on the simultaneously, I would say, educating yourself is
how do I find opportunities?
Yeah. So finding opportunities, it's really about educating yourself on the numbers. So understanding what builders' costs are, how much does it cost them to build, price per square foot is really important. So you can understand the math, and it's not difficult, and knowing your market of what something's going to sell for on the back end. So if I find a property in Los Angeles, a 7,000 square foot lot, City of LA, you're allowed to build 45% of the lot size. So that's going to end up being somewhere around 3,000 square feet total. If I know it sells on the back end for $1,000 a foot, my exit price is going to be $3 million.
Yes.
And then you work backwards and you say, okay, how much if you can build 3,000 square feet, I know a developer's building for around $350 a square foot. Okay, 3,000 feet's then going to cost me around $1 million to build. Okay, so I'm deducting that from the $3 million exit price. And then I'm factoring holding costs for the developer, commissions they're going to have to pay on the back end. And then I figure out, okay, if they want to earn, say, about 20% profit of total acquisition plus construction costs, where do I need to be on an offer price? So you start to understand those numbers. Every market's different, obviously. And LA, I think, is unique. There's probably a lot more development going on there than a lot of other markets. But you can do this for things like fix and flip properties, which definitely exists in every marketplace.
The key is the formula.
The key is the formula.
And to put yourself in the shoes of the developer, right? Knowing what margin do they want to make, what are their costs, and then what's the time of the time on money as well. So so that's fascinating. You answered it, I think, a very detailed. That was perfect. But how do I find the opportunities? Because you and I both know if you got the opportunities, they have a tendency to find you.
Right.
So how do I find the opportunities?
Sure. Without giving away too many secrets, but you're going after properties.
Everyone in Los Angeles, turn this off.
Pause.
You're finding, the larger lots are the more valuable lots because you can build larger. So especially in a
like
city.
An under yield, small house, big lot.
Small house, big lot. That's going to be your best purchase.
Okay, but we can go find that in the tax records.
You can go find those in the tax records. So you really want to go take title records and start searching and going, I want to start with big lots, small square footage. And if you can find a big lot with small square footage, you want to go after those. And what's interesting
who's your title partner?
First American Titles, typically.
Okay.
We also have other systems. We use Property Radar for data sorting and different.
Unpack that.
Why
do you use Property Radar?
Property Radar has a lot of different features which are interesting. It provides phone numbers. It has an easy way to export the data. There's a lot of foreclosure information. It's pretty comprehensive. So we like that.
So the big hack is find the sort of underbuilt, under-yield opportunities, small house, big lot. And then once you have them, give us, we were talking off camera, like, what are the 4 or 5 things you do to either get to know the developers or introduce the developer maybe to an idea?
Sure. So you can drive around neighborhoods, see what's being developed. In LA, at least you can. It's pretty easy. Go to the job site. They usually have in Los Angeles and most cities, they have the permit card right there with the name of the developer. Okay, great. Go. Now you have the LLC. Typically, it's in an LLC. Google the LLC. Go and do some research online. Figure out who actually owns it, or go on title records. Go into the transaction history and look who owns that LLC. And the way you do that is you look and see the mortgage loan that's on the property. So if there's financing, you go into the deed of trust or mortgage, depending on your state, look who actually signed for the loan, and now you have someone to go after.
Bingo.
Yep.
So I'll be the developer.
Yep.
How do you connect with me?
So a lot of times I would show up, and I mean, I've amassed a lot of developers now, but in early days for the person here that doesn't have it, I would show up at the job sites and talk to the workers. And I would walk.
Smart hack.
Yeah, I would go in there and just say, "Is Mike here?" I would know the name of the developer, and I would act like I knew him.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, "I lost his number. Can you please share? I need to get in touch with him." And they'd be like, "Okay, yeah, here it is." And then I would get in touch with them, and I would say, "Hey, Mike, you interested in another deal?" They all are.
That's like I tell people, like whether it's a private equity deal, a company to buy, a piece of real estate, if you find an opportunity, finding the money is the easy part.
Yep.
But,
Very easy.
But establishing a relationship, watching the developers I knew from Newport Beach are now in Dallas.
Yeah.
There are some agents that are going after those people. They don't necessarily always have opportunities.
Right.
And I think that's the miss.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I see you build all these houses. I'd love to be your agent.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Versus, hey, I have another deal for you.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Would it be reasonable for me to say, hey, if I bring you the deal, I also get the listing, right? Buy side, sell side.
Yep.
So, but is there more to it? I mean, I don't want to oversimplify what I think is a complicated, because Andrew, a lot of good agents in LA and everywhere around the world are going after those developers. So what gives you the edge beyond the deal?
Well, I think at least the point where I am now is I have really good market knowledge. I mean, I understand. I provide more value than here's the deal. They come to me and say, Andrew, you represent some of the most beautiful new constructions. I work with a couple developers, Rob and Mark, build the most beautiful homes in the Valley. And everyone wants to know, what are they putting in these houses? Where do they get their materials? I don't share all that information necessarily, but I assist with the design on some of these projects because I know what buyers like when they come in open houses and they say this tile is amazing, or these floors, or the layouts. So I can consult, and I'm more of a resource for these developers.
Okay, totally random. I think one of the moments that Terry Shodine, my speech coach yesterday on stage, was, and what that means to you is. Right? I think a lot of people miss. So her point was, we have a tendency to say, hey, I'm the number one coach, or hey, I do more development deals in the Valley than anybody else, or I have this incredible track record. And everybody goes, so yeah, right? So what? So I mean, I just talked to Carolyn Young. Yeah. She's also really good. Yeah. But I think the cool thing that I wanted to share, and she did it perfectly, is, and what that means to you is, I understand where to get the materials. I understand pricing. I understand what the buyers want. So you're not just going to come into this cold. You're not going to come into this neighborhood where you've never developed before cold. I got you. I think that little and what that means to you. I'm number one, and what that means to you is benefit only to the consumer or the person you're trying to influence.
I will be adding that line into my. It's great.
That was a mic drop. I mean, I've worked with her multiple times, but that was a mic drop moment
for sure.
And I watched everybody go like this. Oh, yeah, because she's number one, you're number one, number one, right? Like, who cares? Who cares?
How does it benefit me?
Right. I mean, I want number two. You'll try harder.
Right.
Let's go, Avis.
Yeah.
And I think one thing, Tom, about Andrew that is so interesting is the humility and the authenticity that he comes with. He's not your typical Orange County LA agent, right? Look at me, blah, 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 blah. And I love that sense of grittiness in him. He doesn't understand no. And every week I show up to calls and I'm like, okay, Andrew, how are we moving forward today? Coach, I got this, I got this, I got this, I got this, I got this. And you see it in a very process-driven, SOP kind of analytical approach. And he just continues to take action on that every day. And he's never satisfied. And yes, we could say that about everyone, right? We coach thousands of agents in our ecosystem that implore that kind of quality. But what I see in him, he just like going from where he started with us to where he is now, and he's not settled. He's like, okay, where do we keep going? And whether it's expansion of his team, right? Whether it's investment portfolio. And then sometimes I wonder, you've said this before, who's coaching who? It's like I turn on the cap and I'm like listening to this guy go. And he just goes.
I love it.
I appreciate that. And I'm going to throw it back on you real quick and give him some love. This man shows up to his coaching calls and gives me every ounce of passion and every call. And even in the darkest days of his personal struggles,
Yes.
he wasn't skipping a beat.
Yeah.
So it says a lot about his character, and I've appreciated everything he's brought. Yeah.
You get the no one cares mindset.
Yeah.
No one cares.
No one cares.
Oh, you're having a bad day? No.
Yeah.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, now let's welcome to the stage Tom Ferry.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, guys. I've just had a really rough week.
Yeah.
Like, they'd be like,
Right.
what the hell's going on?
What does it matter?
Right.
Yeah.
So, good job, Coach.
Yeah.
All right. So, Andrew, as we wrap, if somebody wants to reach out to you and ask a little more questions or
Yeah.
details, did we miss anything on developers? We got Find the Deal. Under Yield, right? I think is a great hack.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Property Radar
Yep.
or another solution to
Yep.
find those opportunities.
Yep.
Find the opportunities. The money is easier to find.
Exactly.
But if you're just going, hey, I'd love to work with you.
Yeah, right.
You're,
I'm
just,
an
you're
agent.
groveling. And, hey,
Yeah.
I'm number one. No one
Right.
cares.
Right.
Like
Right.
the developer knows that property's going to sell no matter what. Right? If I price it right, if it's attractive, it's in the right neighborhood,
Yep.
that thing's going to pop.
Yep.
Right? So any other hacks to win over the developer or builder?
I think that's really, that's the main thing. Obviously credibility and, just showing to them that you're a good communicator and understand numbers and that you're going to provide more opportunities, that you're not just going to give them this one deal, but if they give you an opportunity to list or give you the opportunity to list this particular deal that you're bringing to them, which they should, that you're going to, build a lifelong relationship with them. So
The thing I would say, having done this for a long time and helped a lot of people, navigate all this is it's B2B. It's no longer B2C.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Like when you're business to business and you're negotiating a deal, if you want to kill, you have to be like, how am I going to help my partner win?
Right.
What matters to him or her?
Right.
You want to make a 20% margin.
Yep.
I'm not thinking like, I want a listing and I want to make this. No, it's like, I'm going to help you make 20% margin and I'm going to help you do it multiple times.
Yep.
And I've got your back. I'm a great partner.
That's it.
And that's such a different positioning for people to take, because again, like wherever you are in your career, like, do you need a deal? Do you need a partner? Or is it like, hey, I got you.
I got you.
It's
He's
a
the
big
conduit.
Yeah.
It's not
100%.
ego at all.
100%.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right. Very cool, man. I really appreciate
Yeah,
you.
of
Thank you
course.
for being on the show.
Thanks so much for
Got a
having me.
great recommendation.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right. So if they want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to connect?
Shoot me an email. You can go to andrewdinsky at gmail.com would be the best way.
Cool.
Yeah.
Andrew Dinsky
At
at
gmail.com.
gmail.com.
Yep.
All right. Hey, what's the insight? Let us know below. And you probably follow that guy on Instagram as well. All right. We're out.